Do you know what strife is? Did you know that strife can affect Christians and non-believers? Did you know, like wisdom, strife is a spirit? If you didn't know any of that, then stay tuned, because that's exactly what this video is going to be about. Hey everybody, welcome back to My Best Version of Me. My name is Coy. So in this video, I want to talk about what is strife. So strife is a spirit. It's brought into your home. Okay, so for example, when let's say you and your spouse have an argument, and one of you decides to be the peacemaker and not engage in the argument, but the other one decides that they're going to, just start slamming doors, and let's say you have a little chair that's on wheels, instead of moving the chair out of the way, they just kick the chair out of the way when they walk by. They're talking under their breath. All that right there, that uncomfortable feeling, like when you walk into a room and somebody says, "Man, you can cut the tension with a knife in this room." That is the spirit of strife. And when you bring that into your house, like, man, it is devastating. Strife is so powerful. Strife can break up friendships. It can break up families. It can ruin relationships. I mean, I can go on and on and on and on. And I mean, I'm gonna reflect to some of my notes here. Strife can develop when a difference of opinion becomes the priority in a relationship. Strife is always accompanied by pride and ego. Where there is strife, there is pride, but wisdom is found in those who take advice. Another good example of what strife is like, let's say you're at a barbecue or like an outing, you got a bunch of friends, you're all sitting around barbecue and you're all at the park or something, and an argument breaks out between two people. Now, everybody else in the group is just naturally trying to keep the peace. So they're not going to let you argue. They're going to come up and they're going to try, "Hey, you guys, come on, let's not argue. Let's all just get along here, Well, one person is going to disengage from that, and one person is going to keep it going, but in their own way. So, like, for example, somebody comes in and says, "Hey, you guys, just break it up. Are you good?" And this guy says, "Yeah, I'm good." And this person's like, "Yeah, I'm good." And then they leave, and then, you can hear the other person, like, let's say somebody says, "Oh man, just drop it, man, just drop it." And they're like, "Oh, well, I would drop it, but I was having a great day, and then, somebody had to start talking out of the side of their neck, and stuff like that." I mean, like, they're arguing, they're still arguing, but they're not arguing with you anymore. They're just like basically arguing among themselves. They're trying to provoke you to start arguing again. And like another thing is, like, let's say, a husband and wife, they're arguing, they're going at it, and one of them decides, I'm not going to engage anymore. And then the other one, like I said earlier, they're talking under their breath, and they're slamming doors, and they're kicking furniture, and just being just really, bringing strife into the house. The way that you combat strife is by being a peacemaker. The best way to avoid strife, in my opinion, is to disengage completely from the argument and leave the argument. Like, ask God, if you cannot leave the argument, then you need to pray and ask God to put a watch over my mouth. And I've talked about this in other videos. When you ask God to put a watch over your mouth, you're basically saying, "God, like, zip my mouth up. I don't want to engage. I don't want to argue." But the thing with strife, the way it's so powerful is because it is accompanied with pride and ego. So while the other person is mumbling things under their breath, or they're slamming cabinet doors, if you don't disengage and completely leave that area, and if you try to be strong and, your own pride and ego say, "I'm not going to leave. I'm going to sit here in this house. This is my house. I'm going to sit here." If you do that and you do not disengage, then this is exactly what's going to happen. Is the other person that you argue with is going to be slamming doors and talking under their breath, and then you're going to be like, "Hey, don't be slamming doors in my house," or "Don't be talking under your breath. If you got something to say it to my face." And then boom, pride, ego, strife has won the battle. Boom, an explosion's going to happen. Now they got what they wanted. They got you to engage. Now you're both going to just be boom, 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 throwing arguments, throwing words, throwing this, hurting each other. And that's not, I don't mean physically hurting each other, but with words, you're going to be hurting each other. And that is not good. That's how strife wins. You have to be strong. And I will tell you from experience, strife is so hard to beat. Like, it is so hard. I have lost to strife so many times I can't even count. Like, so many times I've been the one that's like, I do really good disengaging, and then the person keeps going on and going on, going on, and then boom, I just fire off. And then once I fire off, they fire off, I fire off again, and then there's no winning. Nobody wins a battle anymore. To beat strife, sometimes you have to just be the bigger person. And even though you know that they're wrong, just let them think that they're right. Just be like, all right, you know what? Okay, you win, and just end it there, because when you do that, God will see that you are not trying to engage with strife, and he will reward you with blessings. I mean, like, there's so many. I'm going to go through some of my notes here. Strife is a strong and ongoing conflict over a fundamental issue. Strife is deeper than an argument and broader than disagreement. Strife within families can result in lifelong emotional scars. Strife is always accompanied by pride. Strife alienates friends and divides families. Strife destroys unity. Strife is the opposite of love. Scripture urges believers to pursue peace and gentleness and humility. Believers are instructed to be slow to anger and rely on the Holy Spirit rather than an unyielding argument. In Proverbs 17:14, it says, starting a quarrel is like breaching a dam, like breaking a dam. So drop the matter before a dispute breaks out. If you have a cup of water, let's say, and the cup cracks and water starts to come out of there, it is almost impossible to get that water to stop coming out of the cup. That's exactly the way strife is. Once strife comes into your house, it is so hard to get it out. I mean, like, you can try and try and try. I mean, oh man, like, strife is just something that you don't want it to be in your house. In Mark 3 verse 25, it says, a home filled with strife and division destroys itself. So you can go much farther with unity in your house versus strife. It says in Psalms, where there is unity, there is a commanded blessing on your life. So you have to be the peacemaker, meaning you have to go out of your way to bring peace into your home. Jesus even said, a house divided is continually being brought to destruction and will not stand. So you have to just be, and I know a lot of people are like, well, why do I got to be the bigger person? Well, that's just the way it is, unfortunately, sometimes. We just have to be the bigger person. If you don't want strife in your house, you have to be the bigger person. I have tried so many times to be like, well, why do I got to be the bigger person? How come they can't be the bigger person? And it just seems like, in my personal experience, it seems like once you calm down and you start thinking about things, it seems like it's just easier to be the bigger person when you know that you have to be the bigger person. Like when you know that they are not going to stop arguing and they are not going to stop inviting strife in, but you already know how to avoid strife by leaving the house or just stepping outside or going for a walk or going for a drive. In the moment, in the heat of the moment, you're like, well, why do I have to be the bigger one? But I guarantee you, when you leave and you go on a drive or you go on a walk, once you calm down, you're going to be really thankful that you were the bigger person. You're going to be really thankful that you didn't engage. And then every time you win one of those battles with strife, the feeling is amazing. I mean, like, when I win a battle with strife, I feel like I'm on cloud nine. I feel like nothing can break my spirits. Nothing can bring me down. I feel like I am on top of the world because strife is one of those things that it is so hard to beat because we all, unfortunately, we all have pride. We all have ego. We all want to be right. But being right all the time is not always the best thing. Sometimes it's better to just let somebody else think that they're right. And you take your pride and your ego and you just go for a walk and you go for a drive and you just let them calm down. You calm down. Time heals all wounds. So with enough time, you can come back and maybe have an adult conversation and figure out what's going on. And you guys can come to an agreement as adults. But if you try to stay in the same argument with them and you're trying to, get your point across and they're trying to get their point across and you're trying to prove you're right and they're trying to prove that they're right, nothing is going to get accomplished. It's just going to go up in smoke and there's just going to be a huge battle. And at the end, both of you are going to be wrong. So, I mean, that's basically, in my opinion, that's what strife is. Strife is just something that none of us can avoid. Strife is in every argument. Every argument basically comes with strife. I mean, even if you argue, they argue, you argue, they argue, and then you both stop talking, that uncomfortable feeling that is left in the air, that is strife, and strife is just waiting. It's like just sitting there with a match, just sticking it right close to gasoline, just waiting to see if it's going to ignite. And once it ignites, boom, that's it. Strife wins. So, I mean, the next time you get into a heated argument with your roommate, with your girlfriend, with your husband, with your best friend, with anybody, if they're not backing down and you see that they're really into it. I mean, they're really just not going to back down. You could just tell that they're going to keep fighting. They're going to keep on going and going and going. You need to, at some point, disengage. Just be like, you know what? You're right. Even though they might be wrong, but say, just, you know what? You're right. You're right. You know what? I'm going to go for a walk because I don't want to talk about this right now. I'm going to go for a walk and then just leave. Don't wait for them to engage or say okay or not say, because they may not even do it. They may try to say, no, you're not going for a walk. You're not going for a walk. I have seen relationships where one or the other person tries to go for a walk and the other one will literally step in the doorway and put their hands like this in front of the person and say, no, you're not going anywhere. We are going to finish this argument. Just get out of there as fast as you can, because at that point, there's nothing that you can say that is going to de-escalate that situation. At that point, when they get to that point, they want to fight. They want to argue. They want to engage because they want that to happen. Some people are just attracted to drama like that. My ex-girlfriend used to tell me that all the time. Sometimes we would go out and we would have the best day at the beach or the best day among friends. And then we would get back home and then out of nowhere, she would start a fight. And I'd be like, what the heck? And there would be times where I would try to disengage and she would do that thing and be like, no, you're not going anywhere. You're going to stay right here and we're going to finish this. And at that point, I grab her, I move her aside and I leave, because I know that if I don't, it's just going to turn into a huge fight where neither of us are going to win. So it may not be that dramatic with you, but what I'm just trying to say is that when you find yourself in a heated argument and you know that they're not going to back down, you have to be the bigger person. That's the only way that you're going to beat strife. Is you have to be the bigger person and you have to just leave. And if you can't leave, just go outside. Just go out in your backyard or go out in your front yard or just go stand outside. And if you can't do that, which I don't know, it'd probably be a really hard situation if you can't go outside your house. But if you can't, for some reason, go outside your house, then just sit there with your mouth shut and just let them go. Just let them go. They're going to eventually run out of steam. They're going to eventually run out of gas. They're going to eventually run out of things to say, and just let them go and let them go in their room. And they're going to bring strife in. They're going to be in the room. They're going to be slamming doors and talking under their breath and trying to belittle you. And you're going to want to defend yourself. You're going to want to defend your pride. You're going to want to defend your ego. But let me tell you right now, let me just save you some heartache. It's not worth it. If you got to sleep on the couch that night, sleep on the couch that night. But it is not worth you trying to prove who's right and who's wrong. Because at the end of it, you're both going to be wrong. So just, take my advice, disengage, pray about it, ask God to put a watch over your mouth, and just let them run on and on and on. Eventually, they're going to run out of steam and the whole thing's going to wash. That's pretty much all I have to say about this video. I thought it was going to be a lot longer. But as I started going on, I realized that, okay, I could basically sum this up pretty quick. So thank you so much for watching. Comment below if you guys have ever, how do you guys combat strife? What do you guys do? Do you leave? Do you go on a walk? Let me know, because I still battle strife to this day. We all are going to unfortunately battle strife for the rest of our lives. Even Pastor Joel Osteen, the pastor of Lakewood Church, he says that he still battles strife. So, that just tells you that if pastors deal with strife, then, we're all unfortunately going to be dealing with strife for the rest of our life. But it's just how we handle it when it happens that makes the difference. So try to be the bigger person. I know sometimes that sucks being the bigger person, especially when you're always the bigger person. But if you're always the bigger person, then it should be that much easier for you to be the bigger person in this situation. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And don't forget to like and subscribe and comment. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out. Love you guys.
Yeah. Pop in, burning like this ain't